Have you ever noticed someone who instinctively avoids crowded places? Maybe they skip parties, take the quietest route through a busy street, or even feel drained just walking through a packed mall. At first glance, it might seem like shyness or a simple preference for solitude, but the reality is far more complex. Avoiding crowds isn't just a quirky habit. It's often a window into the hidden layers of a person's psychology, revealing unique ways their brain processes the world, manages stress, and seeks control. Crowds can be overwhelming. The constant noise, unpredictable movement, and sheer density of people can trigger what psychologists call sensory overload. For some, the brain interprets the sensory input of a crowd as a subtle form of threat, even when there is no danger. This can provoke anxiety, irritability, or a deep desire to escape. People who habitually avoid crowds often have highly sensitive nervous systems. They notice details others might miss, a flicker of someone's expression, the hum of background chatter, or the subtle changes in atmosphere. While this sensitivity can make crowded environments exhausting, it also equips them with a heightened perception of the world, a kind of mental radar that many overlook. It's tempting to think that avoiding crowds is purely a sign of introversion. Introverts, by definition, gain energy from solitude and lose it in social situations. But there's more beneath the surface. Some crowd-averse individuals aren't necessarily shy or antisocial. They may be what psychologists call highly sensitive persons, or HSPs. HSPs are wired to process information deeply, to notice patterns and nuances, and to feel emotions with greater intensity. For them, crowded spaces aren't just physically draining. They can be mentally and emotionally overwhelming. Every noise, every movement, every conversation in a crowd competes for their attention, creating a mental cacophony that can be exhausting to navigate. The psychology of crowd avoidance also intersects with our sense of control. Being in a crowd often means giving up personal space and autonomy. Movement becomes constrained, decisions are limited, and the environment is unpredictable. For people who highly value control or predictability, this loss can trigger discomfort or even anxiety. Avoiding crowds becomes not just a matter of preference, but a way to preserve inner stability. It's a protective strategy, a means to maintain a sense of agency in a world that often feels chaotic. Interestingly, some researchers link crowd avoidance to past experiences or learned behavior. For instance, someone who has experienced trauma, bullying, or social rejection may associate crowded spaces with vulnerability. In these cases, avoiding crowds is less about preference and more about self-preservation. Crowds can feel unpredictable and unsafe, even if there's no immediate danger. In this sense, avoidance is a coping mechanism, a subconscious attempt to prevent emotional or psychological discomfort. Avoiding crowds also reveals fascinating insights into decision-making and risk perception. People who steer clear of busy places often assess environments more cautiously. They weigh potential discomforts, social stressors, and physical risks before entering a space. In some cases, this heightened risk awareness can be an asset. It allows them to navigate complex social landscapes with care, to avoid unnecessary stress, and to prioritize mental and emotional well-being. While society often glorifies extroverted risk-takers, the crowd-averse exhibit a different kind of intelligence, an ability to anticipate challenges, conserve energy, and make choices aligned with their psychological needs. It's also important to explore the emotional dimension. Crowds can trigger subtle yet powerful emotions, including social anxiety, overstimulation, or even feelings of invisibility. In a sea of people, it's easy for some individuals to feel lost or overlooked. For sensitive individuals, the intensity of emotions around them can feel magnified. Laughter, shouting, excitement, even anger. These emotional currents combine with sensory input to create a storm that some simply cannot bear. Avoiding crowds, then, is not about antisocial tendencies. It's about emotional self-care, a conscious or unconscious strategy to regulate mood and maintain equilibrium. Another layer of the psychology is tied to creativity and introspection. Many people who avoid crowds thrive in solitude because it allows deep reflection and imaginative thinking. Without the constant buzz of external stimuli, they can focus, innovate, and explore thoughts that might otherwise be drowned out. History is full of creative thinkers who prefer quiet over chaos, from writers and philosophers to scientists and artists. For them, crowd avoidance is not a limitation. It's an environment in which the mind flourishes. The solitude nurtures our inner world, enabling insights and ideas that might never emerge in a noisy, crowded space. Social norms and cultural expectations also play a subtle role. Society often celebrates extroversion and gregarious behavior, framing crowd-avoiding behavior as unusual or even undesirable. Yet this bias overlooks the profound psychological reasons behind such behavior. Avoiding crowds doesn't mean a lack of social skills or engagement. It's often a thoughtful, intentional choice that aligns with one's mental health and cognitive style. Recognizing this helps challenge societal assumptions and encourages a more inclusive understanding of human diversity. Some scientists have even explored biological factors. Research suggests that neurotransmitter systems, including dopamine and serotonin, may influence how people respond to social density. Those who experience heightened physiological responses to stimulation, like faster heart rate, increased cortisol, or heightened sensory alertness, may be naturally predisposed to avoid crowded environments. In other words, biology, experience, and personality all converge to shape the subtle but powerful urge to seek space over congestion. The digital age has added a new dimension to this behavior. Virtual communication, online communities, and remote work allow crowd-averse individuals to engage socially without physical proximity. This shift doesn't diminish the validity of their experiences. It provides alternative ways to navigate social interactions safely and comfortably. Technology becomes a tool to respect personal boundaries while still fostering meaningful connections. Importantly, avoiding crowds is not inherently pathological. In fact, it can be a healthy expression of self-awareness and self-regulation. The challenge arises when avoidance begins to limit opportunities, reinforce fears, or prevent meaningful engagement. Like any psychological trait, it exists on a spectrum. Some people thrive with occasional crowds, while others find them almost unbearable. Understanding one's own thresholds and finding balance between solitude and social interaction is key. So, what can we learn from those who avoid crowds? First, their behavior is often an expression of heightened sensitivity, intelligence, and emotional awareness. Second, it reflects a need for control and predictability in a chaotic world. Third, it is frequently tied to emotional self-care, past experiences, and even biological predispositions. Crowds may overwhelm, but the people who avoid them are often finely attuned to the subtleties of life that many of us overlook: the nuance in conversation, the quiet patterns of human behavior, the delicate balance of energy and emotion in the space. In a world that increasingly values hustle, social display, and extroversion, there's something quietly revolutionary about those who choose space over crowding. They remind us that human experience is diverse, that mental well-being requires attention, and that understanding the psychology behind our behaviors enriches not just our empathy, but our connection to one another. The next time you notice someone avoiding the rush, the noise, or the crowd, consider this. Beneath that choice lies a rich, intricate psychology shaped by sensitivity, intelligence, and a profound understanding of self. So perhaps avoiding crowds isn't avoidance at all. Maybe it's a deliberate strategy, a way to navigate a noisy, chaotic world with clarity, calm, and insight. It's a reminder that sometimes the quietest spaces are where the deepest understanding, creativity, and resilience reside. And in embracing the wisdom of solitude, those who steer clear crowds may, in fact, hold a hidden superpower, one that allows them to see, feel, and think in ways that the bustling world often misses.